Hey guys, ItGuyMichal here and welcome to another video of our channel. In this video, I'm gonna show you how to work with the Docker Compose. My previous video was about Docker images and Docker containers, but this video I'm going to show you Docker Compose. Docker Compose serves a purpose to run multiple Docker containers at the same time in the Docker daemon. So if you are into Docker Compose, this is exactly the video for you. Now the only prerequisite of this video is to know the terms like Docker image, Docker daemon, Docker container. I created the previous video, so if you don't know these terms, please check out the previous video I will link here. Now, without further ado, let's jump to the practical part of this video. So as you can see, I'm in my Visual Studio Code where I created a folder called demo. Now inside this folder, I will create a file which will be a configuration file for the Docker Compose. Now whenever you would like to run the Docker Compose, you need to create a file which is called like Docker Compose. It's a new file and Docker Compose.yaml. So whenever you want to run a Docker Compose, you need this file in order to specify the containers to run inside the Docker Compose and the order which need to be run and all the settings which I will cover in this video. Now we will run the Docker Compose from the terminal. So if you want to run the Docker Compose, you need to have the install the Docker. You don't need anything else. Docker Compose ships with the Docker. So if you have like previously installed the Docker, you have also the Docker Compose. You can evaluate your installation by going to the terminal and write docker help and if you see an output like this, you can be 100% sure that you are running the Docker Compose in your machine. So now that we know that we are running the Docker in our machine, we are able to work with the Docker Compose. Now in this video, I'm gonna show you how to run 3 containers in the same time, or 3 images in the same time. I will show you how to run the database, the relational database called Postgresql, the Jupyter image container as in the previous video, and also I'm going to show you how to run a GUI interface which is called Pgadmin, which serves a purpose as a GUI for the database Postgres or for any other databases. We will use it right now for the Postgresql, right? You don't need to be familiar with Postgres, nor the Python, nor the Pgadmin. I will show you the basic stuff. The only purpose of this video is to show you that you can run also the database in the Docker and the GUI software also. So right now what we do is that we go to the Docker Hub and we go to look for the desired images which we want to run. So as I mentioned, I want to run the Pgadmin. I always start with the GUI interface because it's much easier to run and you don't need to configure too much. So if you go here and you put here like Pgadmin into the search bar of the Docker Hub, there will be a lot of Pgadmin images, but as I said in the previous video, we are interested only in the most popular, which as you can see is this one, dpage Pgadmin 4. It has more than 10 million downloads, 581 stars, so this is exactly the one for us. So we will open this Pgadmin, and as you can see the website for documentation of developing different versions of the content and stuff like this. There is a tag page which is mostly important for us, and as you can see the last one is the last tag or the last version in the normal language is 18 days old. So we are interested in this latest version. So how do you specify in the Docker Compose that YAML the container which you want to run? So every Docker Compose that YAML has a first section which is called version, where you specify the version of the Docker Compose YAML which you're gonna use. Now you can think about the version like what syntax will be accepted for the Docker Compose and stuff like this. And currently, because I'm running, so if you go to terminal and go to Docker version, because I'm running the version 19.03.12, I'm able to run the latest version of the Docker Compose YAML, which is 3.8. If you don't know what version you should run, or maybe you're from the future, you are running maybe the Docker 20, which we are looking for. So you should go to the Docker documentation at the internet and check for the version which is available for your version. So right now we're gonna use the version 3.8, and now the second important part is something which is called services. So as you can see, I'm running the Visual Studio Code. for writing the code. I didn't cover too much about the Visual Studio Code, but if you are interested into Visual Studio Code, please leave a comment. I will create a very small tutorial on how to use the Visual Studio Code with the Docker to get this beautiful syntax highlighting and the autofill which I'm running right now. So, but right now back to the subject of this video, we want to run the pgadmin, and now in the service section, this is a YAML file. So when we are going to structure it with this indentation. And right now we are running the services, so we want to specify the services. So I'm going here, I press tab to specify the service. I'm going to specify the name of the service, which is going to be pgadmin, right? So, and now here in the pgadmin, in the service specification, there are a lot of fields, a lot of settings, which you are maybe not interested in the current time. But the most important part is the specification of image. So you can think of this as a name of the container which we're gonna run, and now we're gonna specify the image. So the location of the image where it is. So and we're gonna specify the image by putting here the variable name image, and here we're gonna put the path to the image inside the Docker Hub. So as you can see, it's a D page, pgadmin, blah blah blah. So you're gonna copy paste it and you put it here, Control V. Now don't forget to specify the version or the tag, and you can put here whatever, 4.25 or whatever, but I'm a cool guy, I'm gonna put here the latest, right? So right now we are saying that we are looking for the image which is called dpage slash pgadmin for with the version latest. Now what will do the Docker daemon, in this case the Docker Compose, it will first look locally for the image, and if the image is not downloaded locally, so if you didn't pull it previously, it will look first of all to the repository specified in your configuration file. Now this can be quite confusing, but you can think of it like, right now, you don't know nothing about Docker, so the Docker, you don't know nothing about specifying the different repositories for the Docker, so the Docker will look in the Docker Hub. It will go to the Docker Hub, go to the dpage slash pgadmin for latest, then it will download the image, so the pull image for you, and then it will run it inside the Docker Compose, right? So, so because I know how the pgadmin works, so if you go here into the overview, and you see there is a open link. So there is a specification of the container. You can see that right now here are some examples. So as you can see, the examples are telling you that you can specify the port where should the pgadmin run in your local computer. So as in the previous video, I showed you how to map ports, so we want to do the same thing right here. So I showed you how to do it in the Docker CLI, but you want and you can also do it inside the Docker Compose, and you will do it by simply specifying the port. Yeah, this highlight is sometimes getting like very crazy. So, and you specify it by ports, and here you go to the next line, put the dash there, and you say which port should be mapped to which. So let's go to 80 because it's running at the port 80, we want to run it at my port 80, right? And one more important thing here is that you need to specify the pgadmin default password and email variables. What does it mean? So when you will run the pgadmin, as you will see, you will be asked for the username and password. And when you are configuring this container, you need to specify the base or the root or the admin username and password. And you are doing it with these two variables. So it's called pgadmin default email and password. So I will just copy this and I will put it here. So how you can specify the environment variables for the container? Maybe some of you are not like familiar with the concept of environment variables. So when you're running something in the OS, you have there the environment variables, and Docker Compose allows you to provide the environment variables which will be transferred directly inside your container. So you can specify the environment variables with the variable environment. And so and you then can say like, so please set this environment variable to username domain, and we will go like ItGuyMichal, Control C, ItGuyMichal.com. And we also want to specify the password for the pgadmin default, which is gonna be, you guessed it right, ItGuyMichal, or whatever you want. So now this is exactly enough settings which we need to run the container locally. Now I will show you how to do it. If you want to do it from the terminal of the Visual Studio Code, you can do it directly here, but I don't want to confuse you, so I'm going to terminal. I'm in the demo folder, you can see it here. I will clear the console for you. And then now, oh, sorry, clear. And now what I'm gonna do is that I'm going to ls, and as you can see there is a Docker Compose, and if you want to run the Docker Compose and trigger the Docker Compose, you just go like Docker Compose app. Now it will look for the Docker Compose YAML and it will run the service which you provide. So in this case it's a pgadmin, so it will run the container with the name of pgadmin. It will take some time and the logs will be outputted here, and as you can see, configuration authentication for the server, and now it will just run in the background for you. So please keep this tab open, don't close this tab. You can close it, but for the purpose of example we will run it in the background like this, and we will check always the logs. So right now the pgadmin is running in the background on the port 80 of our computer, of our local machine, because we specified it in the Docker Compose file. So if I go to localhost 80, it will take some time, but I will be redirected to the pgadmin 4, and here you will be asked for the login. I don't know why it's filling out this weird name, so you just delete it and you put here the ItGuyMichal, ItGuy, and the password was ItGuyMichal. Right. So as you can see, I'm logged in into the pgadmin, and here are the list of servers which I can specify. So if you are not familiar with the pgadmin interface, don't worry, it's very simple, but the purpose of this video was to show you how to run the GUI from inside the Docker. So everything was specified in the container, I didn't have to set up anything, everything is running in my container, in my computer. Right, so I want to stop the running container, but I can show you one more thing. So if I go to the other page and put here docker ps, you will see that right now there is running the container dpage pgadmin latest, with the name demo pgadmin1, right? So from the previous video, you know that I can refer to this container with this name. Okay, so how to stop it? If you want to stop it, you just can click here and press Ctrl C, and this will terminate all the running containers. And if you go like docker ps, nothing is running here. Okay, I will stop it for now because the first part is done. So we have the pgadmin installed. We want next the Postgresql database to install. So in order to install the Postgresql database, you can go back to the YAML file, and we will go back to the YAML file, and we will specify a new service. Now please make sure to indent it into the same level as the pgadmin. So let's say Postgresql. Yeah, I'm always confused with the spelling of these technologies, so I guess it's right, Postgresql, right? And now you need to specify the image. So how do we find the image? We go back to the Docker Hub, and we put here Postgres. Let's keep it with the Postgres. And you were immediately redirected to the official 1 billion plus downloads image called Postgres. You can see that all the versions are there. It's up to date. The guys from Postgres are amazing. They are doing a lot of great work to put everything up to date. So whenever there is a new update, it's immediately here in the Docker Hub. You can run even the beta container if you want, but I'm like a secure guy and DevOps guy, and I like stable versions. So we're gonna stick with the 12.4 latest. So as you can see, the latest is always the stable version, but you can also run the 13. Blah 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 versions, right? Okay, so we're gonna run the 12.4. So we go back, and you guessed it, you just need to do it as simple as if you go here, you can see it's just Postgres. So you put there the Postgres. You can put there the latest if you want, but yeah, don't forget the quotes. Postgres, but we're gonna run 12.4, right? So this is sufficient for you to run the Postgres. So you can right now immediately start it, it will work. You just need to map the ports. So I don't know how many of you know, but the Postgres is running on ports. Yes, you are right. 5322, 5432, 5432. Now, and this is sufficient for you to run the Postgres. If you will run the Docker Compose app, it will trigger the Postgres for you, and it will create the image, it will create the container, and it will be everything good. But what you can do is that you can specify the environment variables for Postgres, and I don't know, I want to just talk about basics of Postgres. So the Postgres is a relational database technology. So I want to create a database, right? So in order to create the database, I don't know if it's here. Yes, there are environment variables which provide you the control of Postgres, right? And some of them are very useful. You can go through them if you have time, but I will just talk about some of them. So for example, I want to create a Postgres user, so a user account in the Postgres database for my user. So I will be able inside my Jupyter container later to connect to the database, right? So in order to do this, I need to specify a variable which is called the Postgres user, like this, in the environment variables. And I will call it, I don't need to specify this, so ItGuyMichal, right? And not just that, I need to also set a password for this user, right? And if you don't, I think if you don't specify this environment variable, you will not be able to run the container. So I was wrong before. So you need to specify this variable. So the password, you need to specify the password as simple as copying this variable, putting it here, and putting here the password, which will be, let's say, admin. Very secure DevOps guy, right? And then you need to specify also the database name. So let's say we're gonna call the database Postgres database. So we're gonna run the database name as test. Now, and the thing which I like to do also is to specify a location on the device, so on in the container where the data will be stored. And the reason for this is that you remember the last video, whenever you run a container and then you shut it down, everything will be gone if you don't map any volume there. So the same situation will happen here inside this container. So first, I need to specify the location where the data will be stored, and it's here. The optional variable can be used to define another location, lab subdirectory, blah, blah, blah. So I'm gonna use this PG data to specify the location inside the device. Let's say I like to put it into var lib and name it like Postgresql / data. And now, because I want to keep the data persisted on the disk, so every time I will just like restart the container and start again, I want the data to stay inside the database, not just gone. I need to specify a volume. Now, and volume is a big topic. I will create a separate video for this. The thing which you need to know right now is that you can specify something which is called a name volume inside the Docker Compose, and you will put it like volumes, and the name of the volume, in this case it will be the, let's call it db data, and put it, so this is the name of the volume inside the Docker, and you specified the location inside the database which should be mapped to there. So, and you guessed it, it's the place where I'm storing the PG data right now, okay? So, and one more important thing is that you should also do these volumes for your Pgadmin. Now, why? The reason is you want to keep the settings data and all the adjustments, for example, to storing the password and stuff like this, inside the Pgadmin, and you want to keep it in the volumes also. So it's a good practice to put these volumes for each of the service inside the Docker Compose. So I want to do it also here. This volume I will call, let's call it the pgadmin, and the data and the location inside the device will be the location for pgadmin. Now many of you don't know where the pgadmin is storing it, so I will just tell you it's inside war lib, and I guess it's a pgadmin, right? So this is the way how you specify the volumes for the services. I showed you before the bind volume. This is a name volume. So when you specify the volumes like this inside the Docker Compose, you need to specify also a section outside of the services section, which is called the volumes. And here you need to name the volumes. So the first volume was just, whoa, this one. Oh man, I'm sorry, I'm using the different keyboard here. It's causing me a lot of troubles. I'm used to Linux layout of the keys, and this command control mix is making me crazy. So, and the other one is this one, right? So this is everything you need to specify if you want to run the Postgresql with the persisted volume, and also the pgadmin with the persisted volume. Now don't forget to map the ports, and when you have the specification like this, you go to the terminal. So I'm inside the demo, and let's run docker compose app. It will take some time. If you like don't have the images locally in your computer, you will also download some layers. You will see there the layer progress, but because I have these images locally in my machine, it doesn't take too much time. So as you can see now, everything is running. So if I go back to the pgadmin, I will just reload it. You will be asked for the password again because you stopped and you changed the settings. So let's go to ItGuyMichal, and this is the ItGuyMichal login, and as you will see, I have here something which is called servers. Sorry, you don't need to know my screen time. It's a secret. So let's go to the servers, and now we want to connect the pgadmin inside into our PostgreSQL. You can do it as simple as clicking here, right, and choosing the server. Choose the name. Let's say name of the server is a PG server. You can put here whatever, right? This is not important. This is just the name. And now you need to specify the host. Now, and this is a tricky, right? So if you would run the PostgreSQL locally in your machine, the host will be localhost, right? But these two guys over here, the pgadmin and PostgreSQL, are running inside the Docker daemon, right? And the thing is that inside this Docker daemon there is a network, so internal Docker network, and this allows these two containers to see each other, right? Because they are exposing ports and stuff like this, crazy stuff. I can cover the networking in later video. So right now, the only thing which you need to know is that the pgadmin can see the PostgreSQL database container running as a separate container, as a separate operating system on the host, which is called the same way as the image. So PostgreSQL, right? So if you put it here, you put here the host name the same as you set the name of the service, right? You don't forget the name of the port. Here you need to put the username, so the username which you put here, so the username of the user inside the database. And then the password, you put here the password, which is in this case admin, right? And then you hit the save. And as you can see, I was immediately connected to the database. Here I can see that this is a database, and if I open it, yeah, there is a test, right? So this is very helpful. With this, with just specifying two containers, you have immediate bridge between each of them, right? Bridge is maybe the right word, but you get it. You get the point, right? So we can see the PostgreSQL database at the host of PostgreSQL at the port 5432 from inside pgadmin, which is running a different port, right? How good is that, right? You can also see the PostgreSQL database from outside, so from my local machine, but I ain't gonna do it right now. So, but this is just for context, right? So this was the Postgresql. Now the next thing, what we need to do is to create the last puzzle or the piece of our puzzle, which is a container for the Jupyter, right? I showed in the previous video, if you didn't watch it, please check out the previous video, how to create the Jupyter container. Now I will show it a different way. So in this video. So let's say you want to create another service. So you go here and you put the name of the service, let's call it the Jupyter, right? And you can put here the image and stuff like this, blah, blah, blah. But from the previous video, you remember that I was adjusting the Jupyter a little bit because I was installing there the Jupyter lab, and then I was committing the changes to the container, then to create a new image and then running it from all over again, yes? In Docker gives you the ability to create something which I will call a recipe for a container. So you can create a very specific container which fits your needs from the base container using a file which is called a Docker file, and then you can run it inside the Docker daemon. And we will do it right now. So let's create the Jupyter container, and instead of specifying the image, we will specify something which is called build. And here we will specify the location of the Docker file which we will specify, right? So it will be inside the folder Jupyter. So here you will create a new folder called Jupyter. And we will open the ports. So we want to open the ports 8888 and map it to 8888. Why? Because the Jupyter is running on the 8888. You can put here 9 if you want, whatever. Just we ain't gonna cover this here. And then we're gonna create a bind volume. What is the bind volume? If you don't know anything about volumes, please consider checking my previous video. Bind volume will map the directory from inside my local computer into the Docker container. Yes, so we will specify the bind volume with the volumes. So volumes, yeah, the same way as we did inside here, but instead of specifying the name, we will put here immediate location of the bind volume. So this is the location of the host machine, and we will map it inside the app directory inside the container, right? Yeah, we'll cover it in a couple of seconds. So now, in order to be able to run this, you need to open the Jupyter folder and create here a file which is called the Docker file. And inside the Docker file, first line. Now, this can be very complicated. There are a lot of settings, a lot of commands. Basically, I always refer to this as a new programming language, right? The Docker file has its own structure, its own syntax, its own commands. But you can imagine all the commands which you will specify in the Docker file can be something like Linux commands, which will be run inside the container, right? If you're using Linux containers, which I use. So first things first, you need to specify the base image, which will you build the new image Jupyter upon, right? So as you know, I'm going to run the Jupyter, so I need a Python. And from the previous video, you know that I'm a big fan of the Python 3.8.5, and I like the Debian Slim, right? Because this is a Debian Slim, you can run the Debian command. So if you want to install something, you need to run the apt-get and stuff like this. Right, so first things first. Now you have the base image called Python 3.8.5. First thing which you need to do is to create the working directory. Always do it first. So run, whatever you put inside this behind. So this is a special run syntax. This is a run keyword for the Docker file, and everything after that will be run. So we want to create the mcd here, app. Without this dot. So we will create on the root directory, app directory, right? Now, we want to copy everything from this folder, Jupyter, inside the app, right? So if you will have here some Jupyter notebooks or some setting files, everything will be copied inside the container, right? The next thing is that we want to specify a work directory inside the container. So whenever you will run a container, the home directory of the container will be specified here, and it's the app because we created here, right? For many of you, this can be confusing. Right now, just copy paste or rewrite these commands, and in later videos, I will cover the Docker files, right? And now here comes the powerful things. Now you can install everything to the container from here. So we need to install the pip install Jupyter lab or the Jupyter lab. Yeah, I got some requests that I'm misspelling or mispronouncing the word. So Jupyter lab, and by running pip install Jupyter lab, and then we also want to pip install a driver or the library which allows us to communicate with the PostgreSQL. There are a lot of libraries. I prefer the psycopg2, right? And you will install it with psycopg 2, and because this is a Debian, you need to put here the binary, right? Just copy paste it, don't care about this. This is just the library which allows you to communicate with the PostgreSQL from inside the Python container. So this is everything what we need to specify the Jupyter, right? And as you can see, immediately the Jupyter lab will be installed inside our Jupyter container. So back to this, and as you remember, in the previous video, when I ran a container, it was immediately terminated, right? Why? Because there are no commands to run. This is just a plain Python base image, right? Nothing is there. And there are a lot of ways how you can specify a command to run after running the container. And one of them is to specify here a setting which is called entry point. So, and this entry point, what does it do? So every time this Jupyter will be triggered, so this Python image will be triggered, this command will be run, right? So immediately this command will be run inside the container. So I don't need to go to the container with a bash and trigger the Jupyter lab and then go to the localhost, right? And the entry point, you guessed it, it's the Jupyter lab famous command. Here goes the IP address, so 0.0.0.0.0. This is the IP address from inside the container. Here you specify the port, and the port is 8888. Here you specify the no browser option and allow root. And the last thing is, no, this is everything, allow root, right? So by specifying this, hope I didn't forget anything. Save. I go to the terminal. First, close or stop the running process in the background. If you accidentally, like I will show you, if you run the Docker Compose app, yes, and this will immediately build the image here. So I will show you it later. So right now, as you can see, I don't have the Jupyter locally. So it's being built step by step, and these steps here are exactly the steps from inside the Docker file. So as you can see, we created we got this because I have it locally. Created directory, copy everything into app, created the working directory. Then I run the pip install, and here will be the log of pip install command. Output it. This will take some time, and then after running this, the entry point command will be run. So we will be presented with the nice, beautiful output of the Jupyter lab command. So this can take some time. Yeah, and now you can see the psycopg2 library is being installed. Everything is installed. We are presented with the output of Jupyter, output of PostgreSQL. Every other service is nicely distinguished with a different color. So go here, please copy the token. And now because we have everything what we need, we go to, yeah, this is the Pgadmin, but we want to go to Jupyter. And the beautiful Jupyter, put here the password. The beautiful Jupyter is running here for us. The Docker file is there because I copied the whole content of the file. So right now, if I create here a Python with the test inside there, if I go here, you can see the Jupyter notebook is immediately presented in my folder. So the bind volume is set exactly as I want. Just a quick cheat for I got some comments or some messages that some of you don't want to put there all the time the token. So what is the way how to skip the token? If you want to skip the token, you can go here and put here the option notebook app token to nothing. And then you can specify the notebook app and this is the password to nothing, and this will, after specifying this, you will be not asked for the password and the token in after you run this. Okay, so now that we have the Jupyter running, we want to connect inside the container of Postgres. So we want to connect to PostgreSQL, right? So how to do it? First, you need to create a table, right? So if I go here to the ItGuyMichal Pgadmin account, you can see that this is still persisting here because I specified the volumes. Yeah, this is the Pgadmin, there is a test. Yeah, and are there some tables? I don't have here table, so you need to create here table. So you click here, this is a query tool, and here you will run the PostgreSQL query to create some table with random data. I have it here prepared. If you want to have it in your, if you want to use it, you can just go to the Git linked in the description of the video and copy paste it. So let's create a table with some random data. You can highlight it. I like to highlight it and then run. It will take some seconds. And now if you go here, select everything from it's a test table. You can see I created the 10 random rows, and I want to get this data inside the Jupyter. So inside the Jupyter you need to import psychopg. Yeah, there is the autofill. Yeah, now I have the library here. Now I create the connection, and when you want to create the connection, you need to psychopg dot connect, and here we're gonna put like the host Postgresql. Now you need to specify the port. This is 5432. Now you need to specify the user, the name, and the name is in this case the test, and you need to specify the user. It's ItGuyMichal, and the password, which is admin. You can see that there were no errors, so I was able to connect to this database. If, for example, you put here something else, you will be presented with the fatal password authentication error, right? So I put correctly these passwords, and now you need to create the cursor. For those of you who are not familiar with the Python like drivers and libraries for connecting to databases, just copy paste it. This is just for the purpose of demonstration that I was able to create a connection between the Postgres and the Python. So let's go to create a cursor connection, like cursor. What is it? Cursor. Yes, this is just empty. And now cursor. Yeah, I will just run it to have the autofill. There was I think it was execute, and here you put the query which I created inside the Pgadmin. So let's just copy paste it here. Select. I'm running select from inside the Jupyter inside the PostgreSQL, and now when I go to the cursor fetch all, I will be presented with the data. How amazing is that? Just in a couple of minutes, like I think 30 minutes it took me with the explanation, I was able to create 3 containers, one with the PostgreSQL, other with the Jupyter, one with the Pgadmin, which is a GUI, inside the Docker. So whenever I will go right now, I just need to copy this demo folder, put it inside the computer, install the Docker, and I'm able to replicate everything there, right? So fast, flexible solution for very fast development, right? So guys, hope you enjoyed this video. Now there are a lot of stuff which I can explain, like how to make it secure. I don't want to put the password inside these environment variables, yes. How to create the secrets, yes. How to make it scalable, like how to create more instances of let's say the database or the Jupyter, right? So these are the good questions which I can answer in the next videos. Before I end this video, I would like to thank everyone who subscribed to my channel. Guys, you are really making my day. I like it when I see the number rising. I like when I see some positive feedback. Even the negatives one are pushing me forward to create the content even better. I hope this video will teach you something new which you don't know. I have a lot of topics inside my backlog, and I hope I will have the opportunity to create something for you. If you can, please subscribe to my channel, hit the notification bell, hit the like button, write some comment, share this to the social media, send this to your friends. I will publish every other week at least one video about Docker which will teach you something new. Thank you very much, guys, for watching. I will link the GitHub commands or the GitHub repository with the commands in the description below. Have a nice day, and I hope I will see you in the next video. Have a nice day. Bye bye, guys.